Travels by Broomstick comes to you from South Wales, the land of the dragon. Oh, and sheep. We got lots of sheep. Welcome to all you good people out there in podcast land. So, let's get the broomstick out the garage, and off we go. Welcome to Season 4 of Travels by Broomstick and our special Spooktober adventures, as we get on our brooms and fly over to the most haunted and historical places to get you ready for our favourite time of year, Halloween.
As part of our spooky season, we are giving you a highly requested topic, and that is the British folklore favourite, the Hell Hound. Hell Hounds are demons or evil spirits that take the form of a large black dog.
Ow!
They are described as being between the size of a German shepherd to the size of a horse, with wild and untamed fur to match their wild and untamed ways. They have bright red glowing eyes, sharp snarling teeth, and long talon-like claws, with an ear-piercing howl like that of a banshee, that has the power to strike terror into all who hear it.
Sounds like you on a Sunday morning.
The first mention in print of this beastly black dog is by Reverend Taylor in 1850. Not to be confused, of course, with Taylor Swift, who sings about the black dog as she moves through the world with the heartbroken, her longings stay unspoken. No, this is E.S. Taylor's journal, Notes and Queries, which describes the black dog as a fiend, saying, "This phantom I've heard many persons in East Norfolk and even Cambridgeshire describe as having seen a shaggy black dog with fiery eyes of immense size who visits the churchyards at midnight."
These hellhounds have made their way into the best of British novels, from the famous book by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles, to the mention of the Gytrash in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. And according to the 1847 novel, a Gytrash is a goblin or a spirit that takes the form of a large dog, horse or mule, typically found in the north of England. The Gytrash haunted solitary ways, stalking the unwary travellers as they journeyed alone at dusk. Jane Eyre encounters what she believes to be a Gytrash on one bleak January evening as she is walking home from Thornfield. But it turned out to be Mr. Rochester's dog called Pilot.
These hellhounds are said to be harbingers of death to those who see them, found in the forbidden areas where we mere mortals cannot tread. They are guardians of the underworld. They stalk the church graveyards, looking after the dead. They have even been known to be protectors of women and children who may have strayed from the path, keeping them safe until they arrive back where they belong. One of the most notable reports of a hellhound comes from Suffolk, when on the 4th of August 1577 at Blythburgh, the Black Shuck is said to have burst through the doors of the Holy Trinity Church to a loud clap of thunder. He ran up to the nave of the church past a large congregation, killing a man and a boy and causing the church steeple to collapse through the roof. As the Black Shuck made his swift exit, he left scorch marks on the north door, which can still be seen at the church to this very day, known as the Devil's Fingerprints. The Black Shuck is the name given to the ghostly black dog, an omen of death, said to roam the countryside of East Anglia.
The word shuck may derive from the Old English word skukka, meaning demon, or from the local dialect shucky, meaning shaggy or hairy. The Black Shuck was seen at St Mary's Church in Bungay amid a terrifying storm. Rain poured, lightning and thunder filled the sky, and the Shuck entered the church that was in darkness, killing at least 2 members of the congregation. In the village of Overstrand, there is a road called Shuck's Lane, which is supposedly named after the Norfolk hellhound, and is haunting of said route.
In Northern English folklore, they have the monstrous black dog called the Barghest. The name is thought to be a combination of the 2 words meaning town ghost. Some say it means spirit of the funeral bier. In Yorkshire, England, one notable sighting of the Barghest was at a remote gorge named Troller's Gill in the Yorkshire Dales, where a man went to perform an act of ritual magic in order to summon the Barghest. But the man's lifeless body was discovered soon after, with claw marks slashed across his chest. There is also a story of the Barghest entering the city of York, where, according to legend, it preys on the lone travellers in the city's snickleways, the narrow streets of York. One of the famous streets, the Shambles, has a house named Barghest. In Durham, during the 1870s, a shape-shifting Barghest was said to roam the streets near Darlington and was said to take the form of a headless man who would vanish in flames. It would also take the form of a headless lady, a rabbit, and of course, a big black dog. The Barghest was often seen as an omen of death. At the death of a notable person, the Barghest may appear followed by all the other dogs in the local area, walking in single file in a kind of canine funeral procession, heralding the person's death with howls, growls, and barking. If anyone tried to stop this procession, or even if they just got in its path, the Barghest would lash out, striking with its paw that would tear the flesh, leaving a wound that would never heal. Besides taking the form of a large dog, it was also said that the Barghest could become invisible and walk about with the sound of rattling chains.
The earliest written record of the Hell Hound is in the 11th-12th century Peterborough version of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which speaks of a wild hunt, which typically involves a chase led by a mythical figure or supernatural group of hunters engaged in a pursuit. This wild hunt would take place through the forest between Peterborough and Stamford. Seeing the wild hunt was thought to forebode some horrific catastrophe, such as war, plague, famine, or the death of a person who witnessed it.
In Wales, there is the dreaded Gwyllgi, meaning twilight dog, a big black dog that appears in the form of a mastiff, with blazing red eyes, putrid breath, monstrous size and strength, known to haunt the lonely, desolate locations, stalking its prey with supernatural stealth. Many people have encountered the Gwyllgi, but one such spooky incident happened in a haunted lane in the Vale of Glamorgan. A gentleman named Mr. Jenkin was making his way home from the market when his horse began to move uneasily, when it suddenly bolted and Mr. Jenkin fell to the floor. He looked around to see what had caused his horse to become so disturbed. And there, stepping out of the darkness, was the Gwyllgi, a truly terrifying sight. Its eyes glowing red, and with a haunting howl it leapt towards him. Mr. Jenkin closed his eyes tightly, but when he opened them, his stable hand, old Anthony, was in front of him. The horse had made his way back to the stables, and old Anthony had gone looking for Mr. Jenkin. Old Anthony himself had once experienced the Gwyllgi, many years prior. He'd been out with a lady friend one Sunday night, and was walking home down the haunted lane. Walking alone, he witnessed the searing red eyes of the Gwyllgi appear out of the darkness. He took off his hat and threw it towards the big beast, but the hat went straight through the devil dog of darkness. And with that, the scary spectral hound disappeared. The hat landed in front of him on the path, and Anthony hurried home to safety.
The Padfoot follows people with a soft padding sound. Some say that this padding of canine feet is also accompanied by the sound of dragging chains. It is seen as a harbinger of death. One story states that a gentleman once witnessed the Padfoot and tried to shoo it away. He kicked the large dog only to find himself seized by the supernatural hound. The man was dragged through a ditch, pulled through a hedge and taken back to his home, being dumped by the demon dog under his window. The Padfoot disappeared, the sound of his paws padding away into the distance. The Padfoot, famously the nickname of Sirius Black in the Harry Potter books, is a hellhound that is supposed to guard graves in a cemetery, just like the Church Grim.
The Church Grim is a guardian spirit in the form of a big black dog. The Grim haunts churchyards, protecting it against all who would desecrate it, such as vandals, thieves, witches, and the devil himself. A tradition once maintained that the spirit of the first person to be buried in a churchyard would be given the task of guarding it. In Scotland, however, it is said that the last person buried in the churchyard would be its guardian until a new interment took place. So to save the spirits of the dearly departed from these garden duties, a large black dog would be buried in the churchyard, or even buried in the foundations of the church itself. The black dog, the church grim, would toll the church bell at midnight on the eve of the death of a local resident. During funeral services, the clergyman would see the church grim staring out of the church window or tower and would be able to tell from the dog's behaviour if the deceased were going to heaven or going to hell.
The Gurt Dog of Somerset is seen as a friendly and protective creature. This benevolent black dog is said to guide and defend travellers. Mothers in the Quantock Hills would even let their children play outside unattended, as they were sure that the Gurt Dog would look after them. The Gurt Dog, or Great Dog, at Langport is a guard dog that is laid out on the land. Through the shaping and placement of various physical features, such as Burrowmump being the dog's nose, Ear Lake Moor near the dog's ear, the village of Wag sits on the dog's tail, with the whole dog being 5 miles long. This is all identified by Uri Leach in the book Gwyn, Ancient God of Glastonbury, and key to Glastonbury's zodiac, and the poem goes:
In Merlin's secret temple, the Temple of the Stars, protected by a giant dog and brave Knights Templars, outside the circle, guarding the Grail, the great dog awaits to welcome new pilgrims at the initiate's gates. His nose Burrowmump, a giant red beacon from lands far away, to his tail down at Wag, Hecate's dog, Albion's hag, Anubis and Cerberus guarding the dead from Middle Earth to the underworld. A wild ride we read. A lone rider on a unicorn appears, and then beyond the fog, 2 riders on a horse. Poor knights accompany a dog. There are so many more black dogs that we haven't covered in this episode, so drop your native black dog name below in the comments, and if you would like us to do an episode on your black dog, let us know.
That concludes this episode of Travels by Broomstick. We hope you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, pleasant dreams.